This is Average Joe PT, and on last episode, I'm going to leave a link up there to it. We talked specifically about how do you tell where your pain is coming from, whether it's coming from your shoulder or whether it's coming from your spine. Now we're going to go ahead and drill down a little bit deeper. In this episode, we're going to talk specifically about the shoulder and how the heck do I tell the difference between a rotator cuff problem and an actual shoulder arthritic problem. So that's significant because how do you treat something if it's coming from your shoulder, rotator cuff, or coming from just arthritis? So let's go ahead and get started. Now specifically when we're looking at the shoulder and we're looking at, where's my pain coming from? Classically people are going to think of two things. It's my rotator cuff, or, oh my lord, it's my rotator cuff. Exactly. They're not going to think anything other than that because that's all you really hear on the internet is if I have a shoulder problem, it's got to be my rotator cuff, right? Wrong. It's not always that case. So how do you really tell the difference whether it's coming from, in this case, the ball and socket, or is it coming from those four rotator cuff muscles? The one specifically we're going to talk about is the one that sits right down in here, that ding 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 spot. That's your supraspinatus muscle, and that's classically the one that gets torn or gets a tendonitis in it if you're having some shoulder problems. I'm going to leave a link up here. I'm going to go over specifically, and this one is treating the rotator cuff if you think you're actually having a rotator cuff, but I want you to wait to the end to really give you a good idea if you should be treating that or if it's coming from this other thing that I'm talking about, which is just generalized arthritis in the shoulder, or in this case could be even coming from the collarbone or the clavicle here, the AC joint, the acromion-clavicular joint. So let's go ahead and talk about that. So if you're having pain like any direction, it hurts, it aches, it throbs, you're really not getting a lot of pain down your arm or definitely nothing in your hand, that's a big no-no. If you're having the hand issue, we talked about that last time, and that's probably coming from a neck issue. But if we're looking at the shoulder and it's like, okay, if I move it here, if I move it there, if I move it all around, if it doesn't matter what position my arm's in, it's hurting, you might be having just some generalized arthritic pain in the ball and socket. You ain't got to be an old fuddy-duddy to actually have arthritis in the shoulder. It's going to probably feel like a grinding sensation, and that grinding sensation is actually called crepitus, and that's where you're having wearing of the cartilage on that joint, whether it's the ball that's worn a little bit or the socket. Now if I'm going to show you just here an x-ray, this x-ray looks beautiful. You see the head of the actual shoulder, and you see that ball's nice and round, it's kind of white. And then the other x-ray is where the heck is the ball? It's kind of flat where the ball should be round, or it's just worn, or literally the ball is kind of inside the socket because the ball is worn so much. So you really see more of a wearing of the ball than you actually do the socket, because as I said in the last episode, this is really a floating joint. So if you're having a lot of pain with multiple directions and it feels like it's just in the ball or just coming down the arm a little bit, then we're probably dealing with some arthritis. And how do you want to treat that? If it's not giving you any referred pain, like into the shoulder blade, down the arm, into the collarbone area, maybe even bad enough into the neck area, then you want to treat it with just some heat. Heat should actually help calm those symptoms down. You want to treat it with some ibuprofen, number 2, or some sort of anti-inflammatory steroid. Could be Aleve, could be naproxen. The doctor you go and see a physician, they might actually do an injection in there, a steroid injection, which could be a combination of lidocaine, dexamethasone. So those, they might do that for you, and that might calm down your symptoms. And they're going to probably shoot it right in the back here, right on the back side where I'm showing you, and that'll give you some inflammation there. And that injection will help reduce that inflammation, and they're actually treating it as that particular problem than really treating the ball and socket issue. So when you're looking at, will those things help? Yes. Heating the area, just gentle range of motion, Don't do a lot of force activity with it, a lot of pushing, pulling, carrying, because that's going to aggravate, that's going to increase that inflammatory process. Now I'm going to leave up a link here at my catalog of my shoulders. It kind of gives you an idea of some generalized strengthening exercises you want to do for that shoulder. But if we're looking specifically at this episode, do I have a arthritic problem, or am I dealing with a tendonitis? Now we talked about the arthritis. Now let's talk about the tendonitis. And there's three kinds. There's peritendinitis, there's tendonitis, and then there's tendinosis. Now I'm going to leave a link up there that goes over the different types of tendonitis, because truly, depending on if we're talking about an early stage, a middle stage, or late stage tendon issue, you want to treat it a little bit different. The treatments at home you want to do a little bit different. And the exercises you want to do at home for it's going to be a little bit different. So I'll leave a tag up there, you can look at that. But if we're just talking about how do I know if it's a tendonitis or arthritis, the tendonitis piece is where you're going to come into hand, where it's maybe one specific motion. Maybe it feels like it travels down my arm, in the back of the arm, maybe past the elbow. It might actually feel like it's in the elbow. Like my pain, it feels like it's just killing me. It feels like I have an elbow pain, and it's actually coming from that rotator cuff. That's one of the classic signs of a supraspinatus problem, tendonitis or tendinosis issue, is it's getting that backside referred pain down the arm, and it feels like it's in the elbow, like you're having an epicondylitis issue or a tendonitis in the elbow, and it's really not that at all. So that's a little trick of the trade there a little bit for you. And so maybe if you bring your arm up, it might catch a little bit. It's not clicking, it's not grinding all the different directions like arthritis will, but that tendonitis type issue, you can't go behind your back because it's catching all the way through. That can give you that. You can't sleep on it at all. Now both of those, arthritis and tendonitis, can give you those kinds of symptoms. So the hallmark will be, you're moving that direction out to the side and that's catching there. It's like, ooh, versus any direction. Like maybe if I come out like that and that catches, ooh, that's a tendonitis issue. That's how you can really tell the difference between the two. Now we separated out the numbness, burning, and tingling. That's because that's mainly coming from a neck issue. Now, not always, but for the vast majority of the time. Now you can get impinged in the nerve in the collarbone area where the nerves come out through all the way down through the arm. More times than not, if you're having numbness and burning and weakness in the hand or grip strength, and it's probably coming from the neck, it's not coming from, in this case, what we're talking about, the ball and socket and the tendonitis issue in the shoulder. Now, if you have any questions, leave me a DM below. I'd love to hear them, positive or negative. If you guys, you want me to talk about something different, that would be great. I'm going to continue on this catalog for a little bit longer. If it feels like you're like, okay, what else do I like to hear about? Tell me. Give me a thumbs up. I'd like to help other people out. This channel is really about helping you all out and giving you some education, help reducing that anxiety when you do know what the heck's going on, and you can kind of help treat it yourself at home. And don't forget about my walks that I do daily, or try and do daily. Maybe it's every other day. And you can go ahead, I'll leave those links up there for you. You can go ahead and watch those. Those go into a little bit deeper dive into specifically the episode that I'm talking about, or the previous one. And I kind of give a little bit of a horror story, one or two of them, of my past experiences as being a physical therapist. But until next time, Scully and I always like to say, look up and keep smiling. See you next time, folks.